Staff is rolling.
I'd like to call the community of the whole meeting for the Village of Cary to order with roll call, please.
Chapman?
Here.
Dudek?
Here.
Cavelli?
Here.
Cosler?
Here.
McAlpine?
Here.
Kraus?
Here.
Thank you. Would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I cracked myself up. We'll now move to the public comment portion of the meeting. Is there anybody here that would like to address the village board on anything other than that's on the current agenda? With that, I think I don't see anybody that's active in that. So go ahead and close public comment. Thank you. On to the consideration of the January 19th, 2016 Committee of the Whole meeting minutes. Were there any credit or edits, changes, clarifications needed? We'll go and put those on the consent agenda then. Same for the January 19th, 2016 Village Board meeting minutes. Were there any clarifications, edits, changes needed?
I did. I just wanted to, on page number 3, I just thought that we should add in with Mr. David Gelwicks. I'd like to add in that he's also the broker that has that, that has that property listed and has had that listed for, I think he had said 11 years. I just thought that, just that little bit was something that was of pertinent information.
Broker Dave.
That's fine. Anybody
Broker
else
Dave.
have anything else they want to add on that? So we'll approve those as amended then. Thank you. Now enter a discussion regarding the zoning ordinance text amendment adopting Robert's Rule of Order. Brian.
Thank you, Mayor. This item before you this evening is a proposed amendment to the zoning ordinance to basically adopt Robert's Rules of Order for the zoning board here, as far as how they operate their meetings. Staff was recently asked to explore modifying the code as recent cases identified that there were not specific provisions for Robert rules within the confines of the zoning board rules of operation. The memo you have before you kind of highlights the section of the code that speaks to the zoning board and plan commissions, or zoning board and planning and appeals as far as how they conduct their meetings. And staff has proposed a small minor amendment to the meetings portion in 1770.014 in the zoning ordinance as far as adding that provision. The provision as proposed is very similar to the provision in the municipal code for the operation of the village board and committee of the whole. So staff is, if the board is comfortable with this proposed modification, staff would pursue scheduling a public hearing to review the request along with the bulk requirement modifications we discussed early January. Schedule that for a hearing before the ZPA, which would then recommendation back to this board, or village board, for approval.
Any questions regarding this? Seems like a plan to me. All right, thank you.
I do have a question. Brian, I asked Chris about this before the meeting, so I'm just looking for some clarification. All the information in section 1770, this has been in place for some time, the majority of this?
Correct.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So, I went back and I'm asking for your interpretation. I went back and I looked at the one ordinance that was brought. This was the text amendment. It was on January 19th, 2016 Village Board meeting. It was when we were talking about Pearl. And the first motion that went through the ZPA, that was to amend the comprehensive plan land use map. So when I look at section 17.7025, it's text and map amendments. In your opinion, does the first motion that was made from the ZPA meeting when they were asked to amend the comprehensive plan land use map, does that fall under one of their powers in section 17.7?
Not within the zoning ordinance, which is section 17. It's covered separately in the municipal code under, I believe it's Title 5, if I'm not mistaken, where it establishes the plan commission and their purview from that standpoint as far as what the rules and regulations would be. There's two areas of the code, the section of the code that establishes the powers of the village board, committee of the whole. There's also in that section of the municipal code, the adoption or creation of the zoning board of appeals or the zoning board, and then also a plan commission as well. So that section of the code specifies the comprehensive plan amendment. The zoning ordinance does not specifically.
So there's clear guidance in village governmental documentation that tells them that they shouldn't have had any question as it relates to their ability to make a recommendation to the village board under that first motion.
Correct.
Okay. I think it's probably a good idea if we copy that and provide that to them, because apparently they still have that.
Sure. We can run that. Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Okay, we'll enter into an update regarding the water billing process. Hey, Mary.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. At the last village board meeting, trustees requested information regarding the water billing process for purposes of discussion. A detailed narrative regarding the process is included in your packet this evening. I'd like to provide a summary of that memo, and then staff will be happy to answer any questions that you may have. The Village of Cary mails approximately 6,300 utility bills on a bi-monthly basis, or every other month, to all residential and commercial account holders. Bills are issued on the even months of the year on the first day of the month. The bills are due on the last day of the month with which the bill is issued. If a bill is unpaid by the due date, a 10% penalty or late fee is assessed on the original amount of the bill. Occasionally, that 10% penalty is waived in cases where the account has no previous record of having any penalties assessed on the account during the prior 12-month period. In the event the bill remains unpaid for 45 days after it has been issued, water service may be shut off or terminated. Before the water service is interrupted, a door hanger tag is left at each residence or business to let them know that their account is delinquent and subject to water disconnection. A door hanger or tag is left at least 48 hours prior to disconnection to allow payment to be made on the account. With that said, approximately 50 residences and/or businesses are provided door hangers on a monthly basis due to those delinquent balances. Collection efforts are placed on accounts with the highest delinquent balances, generally I would say about greater than $100. During the course of the year, there may be months that water disconnections do not occur due to the weather or other work assignments. If that occurs, collection efforts are resumed the following month, and there may be more than 50 door hangers that are issued during that month in an attempt to catch up from the previous month that was missed. As much as possible, and every effort is made with every water customer to bring their account to a current status. If needed, payment plans arrangements are offered as a means to assist residents in reaching a current status. However, there are times when a payment plan is offered by the village, but is not agreed to by the customer, or both parties agree to the payment plan, but the customer does not make the payments as agreed upon. When this happens, then the village is really left with no choice but to issue a door hanger tag and possibly disconnect the water service for non-payment. That's a very general overview. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
I had a question regarding that last part that you just read. So my question is, are these agreements entered into like writing? Is there a written agreement between the village and the
Yes,
customer?
yes.
Okay,
We
so,
do send out a payment plan agreement that we ask them to sign and return to us for the file.
okay, and it spells out directly, should you not pay this within whatever the time allotment is, then their water would be shut off? I'm
Correct.
assuming it says all that stuff.
Correct. So we make arrangements, what's mutually agreed upon is the amount and the time that the payments are to be made.
Okay, and then I only have one more question. My other question is in the part where it says water shut off, or water service may be shut off or terminated. My question is,
Give me a break.
are we consistent in that process? I realize you said here that there may be times when you guys get backed up or the weather, and then it
Correct.
sounds like then the following month you guys play catch up with that. So there is consistency there, even though it may not necessarily appear to be just because of the workload or the weather?
Yes,
Okay,
that's correct.
those are my only questions.
Okay,
Thank
Thank you.
If somebody has if somebody in the house has a health issue, and I'm sort of equating it to electricity here, I got a, 90-year-old grandmother, or I get a brand-new baby or whatever, I mean, do we look at that, compassionately with our residents?
We do, Trustee Chapman, we do. We do have, for example, a case where a resident has a child because of physical needs, that their water service cannot be turned off. We do send the reminder notices, and they do make every effort to make payments.
Okay,
Yes.
thanks, Mary.
Any other questions regarding our water bill and billing process? Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Jake, you're going to lead us in a discussion regarding the community survey, I understand.
I will, Mayor. Thank you. Good evening, Village Board. Before you is some updated information related to the community survey. At our last committee of the whole meeting, we had discussion regarding the community survey, and there were requests from the Village Board for more information, such as the survey that was sent out as a part of our comprehensive planning process to the residents. That's included in your packet. Also, there was a request for the cost related to if the survey would be sent out by village staff, what those costs would be. We've included those costs as a part of including the mailer with our water billing process, and certainly we'd be happy to answer any further questions you have regarding the community survey.
I get a water bill. Is it bulk mail? Or do we send our water bill out by first class? I mean,
It's outsourced, so we have a outfit, Third Millennium sends them out.
It's pre-sorted first class.
pre-sorted first class, okay.
Thanks, Mike.
Well, Jake, in Crystal Lake, we did a survey to all the residents of Crystal Lake. And again, it's 15 years ago. It cost us $1,800 to prepare and get everything sent out, and we did it bulk. And I know that that's sometimes a hassle and people don't get their mail timely. But we got a 10% return out of all of those that we sent. What type of returns do the professional community survey companies tell us that we'll get if we use them?
We haven't asked professional survey companies what that number would be. What I have seen in the past and looking at a few examples from other communities that have used a professional company is that if they do not, if the survey is sent out to the residents and they do not receive feedback from the resident, they will phone the resident and try to obtain the results that way. They also offer the option, so if someone doesn't want to complete the survey and send it back in, they can, state to the village that they'd prefer to do the phone interview with the company, and they can arrange it that way.
Okay.
That's a good comment, and we'll make sure if you decide to choose that path, that we would follow up on return rates and look at that. I want to add also, as the board is asking questions, there, including in the last couple days, there appear to be a number of other community initiatives that are ongoing. Park District came in to meet with the mayor and I yesterday as they are on the process of working on their master plan. They've got some fantastic community initiatives that are coming out of that. They've done a good survey process as part of that as well. And it's pretty evident that on a couple of these larger projects, Meyer Materials is a good immediate example, as well as some future planning the Park District has for park sites, there are public improvements that are a part of it that are an essential part of that process, some of which might be somewhat controversial. And so I would like to suggest that
I understand the concern about the cost. We respect that completely. I see, though, a growing list of pretty important community needs. We talked about the wastewater project. We talk about possibly being a service provider to other municipalities. We talk about the downtown improvements from the standpoint of not just solely infrastructure, but cosmetics. We talk about metro uses. We talk about Meyer. We talk about predominantly some of these park projects that I see coming out that will involve the village. We have obvious thoughts that have gone on. We've had a community committee about Maplewood and its issues. And so, I mean, I see a large list of high-level type questions along with the nuts and bolts of you wanting to see in an independent way, proctored by an independent body, some real direct questions about how do we provide service. Some issues on tonight's agenda are good examples. I mean, how do customers feel about our water billing process? How do they feel about police services? How do they feel about snow plowing and cul-de-sacs? I mean, there's just a lot of things. And I'm not saying that some parts of that couldn't be done in-house. I'm expressing that. I think you'd benefit if we're talking about a spread of 8 to 10,000. That's not at all something to look past, but I think that you're going to get more benefit from the proctored procedure. You're not going to have any questions about how it was conducted. We'll get the answers about the return rate, which is a great question. And I think they'll help us conceive of some questions that are on your immediate work plan that you're going to want to know, and you'll be able to point at, kind of an independent, not kind of an independent approach to the feedback you need to make the decisions with taxpayer dollars. So it is somewhat it is a recommendation for that approach. I think you'll gain a significant benefit from it.
In terms of the number of responses that we might expect between going with the one option and the other option, is there a big difference between what we might see in terms of who would respond to a survey?
Are you saying between if we send it out with the water bills versus
Or if we
had
went with a consultant? Yeah, how would they do it any differently in terms of trying to target a larger portion of our population?
It's a good and a fair question, certainly. I mean, I'm not saying that if we use a consultant that the consultant is going to be able to get more responses. We still need the residents that get the surveys to respond to the surveys. So to answer your question, I can't commit and say that the consultant is going to provide us with a better response rate. I will say, though, in following up to what I said previously, is that having that follow-up via telephone, I think that's important. I think that's valuable. Excuse me, that's another way for them to encourage and induce more people to respond to the survey.
Chris, do you know, or anyone here know, who the Park District used for their planning meetings?
Hitchcock?
So would that be, are the costs associated, is this 12,000 around what they paid?
Yeah, it was embedded in their overall project, and it was in this same ballpark. We did ask them that, and they had, Hitchcock is a firm that did their overall planning, and they had a sub that did this specific trade piece, and it was fairly close to this ballpark, based on what they told us last night.
I have concerns over the response rate as well, and those meetings seem pretty well attended. I went myself, and I think that people are more apt to attend a meeting like that where they can just voice their opinion and be done with it than fill out a 10-page questionnaire. But that's just my opinion. So yeah, personally, $12,000 to fund this is concerning if we only get 500 responses. If we can get 5,000, it's worth it.
Got it.
They did a sampling, so they didn't send the survey to everyone they sent.
Could you come up to the mic, please?
When the Park District sent out their surveys, they took a sampling of the population of Cary. I think they only sent out 500 surveys and expected to only get back a portion of those, but that's still a sampling. So statistically speaking, that's what they based their information on. So they didn't send it to everyone, just in case that's what you're expecting.
Park District is considerably larger, though, too, in terms of population and area.
Any other comments about this?
I like,
Go ahead.
I like the village doing it on its own. I'm not in favor of a consultant. I thought the Park District one, I went to it, I thought it was valuable, but I also thought that that would be something that can be done at a village level, not at a consultant level. So that's where I stand on it.
Dave, go
Has
ahead.
everybody talked? Okay. One of the things I sure would like us to see, now I doubt that the Park District asked questions about, the village and the services, and I doubt that the library would, or any of the other, bodies. But I think it's certainly incumbent upon us to ask a couple of questions in that survey about the library and about the Park District and about the schools. And then we could feed that back to those relevant bodies.
We might then inquire if they'd be willing to chip in a little bit too then, if,
Especially if we do
they
it in
might
the water
want
bill.
to, maybe they'd want to partner with us or something.
That's not a bad idea in terms of asking. I had my quarterly meeting. We have the superintendents and the other executive directors from the districts were at Village Hall today. The Park District was with us in the Library District. I can make a couple phone calls and bring that back to you before this came forward. I understand the concern about cost. Anyways, to broaden it out, I don't see that being a bad thing as long as it's well composed.
I would agree that, I think that it's definitely worth looking into doing that because it also shows the cooperation between different entities within the village, which is one of the things that we've been trying to do with, moving forward a little bit. Call it economies of scale within our village.
Including the fire district. I think that's another example of one that I haven't seen had this for a while, and they might be interested. That might be a nice fit as well. Fire is typically within the municipal portfolio usually. So I wouldn't have any issue with that at all.
Well, the reality is, in my opinion, I think they probably should be all combined into one because the results of what one suggests impact a service provider someplace else. I mean, if the town said if the residents said we want to have more townhomes or more single-family development, well, then the fire department would want to know that, right? The library district would want to know that. The park district would want to know that. So, as it relates to the particular question that you have here on the survey, I said it before and I'll say it again. I'm in favor of the consultant doing it. I thought that the Lake Zurich survey that was presented as an example looked really professional, had some terrific questions. And it's not just sending out a survey and getting a survey back with a bunch of filled-in circles. It's the analysis of the information that you provide. So somebody in village staff has to do that, and that's going to take time. And that time accounts towards the cost of, what you're paying the consultant. So I think you have to look beyond just the dollar amount and say, what are you getting for that? And part of it is village staff when it's done internally versus an external consultant who's going to be unbiased and probably present a better synopsis of the material than we might do. So that's my 2 cents.
So would you like us to proceed to contract based on what I hear to be a majority of the committee? Answering questions regarding the aspect of other agencies, co-partnering, and then the detailed discussion about response rate, which ultimately I think would be your choices anyways. I think they're going to provide some options on sampling and or a more mass approach. I understand the sampling the Park District did. My immediate question would be, what would be so wrong in getting a larger number? I mean, I guess we have to determine what's statistically significant, but I can't imagine it'd be a bad thing to get more as opposed to fewer. But there may be some pros and cons that you might want to look at. Do you want me to proceed to bring something back to you?
Does that work out for you, Jim?
Yeah, I'm just having trouble swallowing the 12,000 when we wouldn't even spend 11,000 for a good video system, So a one-time survey, I don't think pays off as much as people watching the meeting every night. So I'm just having trouble with that. So that's where I'm at.
Well, I look at it from a different aspect too. I just look at staff time that would have to create the survey, come up with a consensus of valid questions that people want answered. And then when mailing it out, getting it all back in, collating all the information. We just lost our intern. We don't have any extra help to do these one-off jobs. And we couldn't hire somebody for this amount of money to do this project that would probably take 3 or 4 months to get the information that we're seeking. So I think it would be a good spend. I think it's critical at this time. We've got a lot of things happening here. We can tie in some of these larger projects that we're working on as to what the community thinks things need to be moved on. I really like Jeff Krause's idea of seeing if we get some municipal partnering with all their taxing districts within our municipality to help us offset that cost. It's never hurts to ask. You don't know. But I would like to see at least a conversation started about, if we could find out exactly what the final cost would be and if there would be anybody else interested in participating from a cost standpoint to drive our costs down. Anybody else have a problem with that?
I'd like to get that information.
I'd like to take.
Is that all right with you, Rick? Kim? Sure. Dave?
Yeah, and so I do need to be clear. So you want me to bring back a proposal to you that does that and feedback from these other jurisdictions as to co-partnering, and that's what I'll do.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And just on the one side, Chris, and it costs us $83 to send out our water bills. You know what I mean? I don't know how much it actually costs for us to do that each month,
Okay.
but that's, and then when are we hiring the next intern?
I can talk about that at the end. I'd be glad
Awesome.
to if
Okay.
you'd like to.
Good.
And if we did decide to go with the Survey Monkey, doesn't it just generate all the information for you immediately?
Yeah, it does. I mean, it's a philosophical discussion. I mean, I understand it's also cost. Survey Monkey does provide some of those tools. You got to decide what's right. I mean, I view some of what you're buying as being some of the expertise from having done other community surveys as opposed to a homegrown approach. You could look at it both ways. And I guess the question is, are we getting $10,000 in value on immediate issues in front of us with a process that we're absolutely certain about? I mean, we certainly have done newsletter type things one-off before. We've done Survey Monkey before, great example for some of us, maybe not for others. Backyard chickens, we had a Survey Monkey approach, and we had 500 one way, 500 the other. And I mean, it was used by the board at the time for its deliberation. So we've done those, feel confident in those. That was pretty straightforward. Here, I do think there would be some expertise that would be of some value, but I understand the cost.
Thank you, Jake.
Very good.
Are you helping us with the next one?
Yes, sir.
All right, well, we'll have a discussion regarding the Sustainability Task Force.
At the last committee of the whole meeting, Trustee Chapman had requested that the committee discuss a sustainability task force. Trustee Chapman was gracious enough to send some examples, village staff, Downers Grove, and then also Aurora. We grabbed the example of a local community here, Crystal Lake, too, included some of their objectives of their sustainability task force. Within it, I believe it's the Downers Grove example that you have. It talks about some of the output, and it has a formal plan. It talks about some of the objectives and how they will meet them. So we wanted to provide this to the committee this evening. It's just kind of food for thought, and if it's something you wanted to pursue, we would come back with some more specific objectives and criteria for how the task force would be put together. So I'd be happy to answer any questions and certainly can turn it over to Trustee Chapman if he has anything to add.
Well, one of the things, and I thank you, Rick, for reminding me about that is, where do we go next? How do we take those next steps? And so benchmarking some of those communities that are out there that have been doing this since 2002, some of the communities. Right now, we have a great opportunity because Energy Star is looking for people, single-family homes. They're looking for businesses. They're looking for municipalities to partner with them. And they'll provide the software for free to allow you to come up with a plan, have it ready in your hands to start. So it helps you to learn how to measure, And I mean, it's whether it's, your meter reading, your water, your electricity, your gas bills, input those into the software package. And then it spits out a plan to help you to become more energy efficient, so that the committee, once they get started, they wouldn't be just grappling in the dark. There are plenty of opportunities from the Mayor's Caucus of 130 communities and things that they've been doing. So we've been doing a good job. We started off well. We have a lot of things under our belt, but it's time to take that next step and then to have an advisory board then to vet these things out there and then have them bring it to the board after working with staff and to make the board and future boards some presentations on new ideas about how to move the village forward.
If you were to decide to proceed with this, my recommendation would be, seeing as how myself and Brian are going to be involved with the ED task force that's forming, I'd most likely ask Jacob to chair the sustainability group, and others can be brought to the table on specific projects, obviously Eric from time to time. So that would be my suggestion if you decide this is the path you want to take.
Well, let's talk about that. What does everybody think about it?
How often would the group meet? Would it be monthly, quarterly?
Once a month.
Same thing as like the economic thing?
In the
where-
evening.
Well, I mean, as far as the economic task force, you got volunteers, you did a selection process. I mean, would it be very similar along those
Absolutely,
lines?
yes.
And ultimately, what is the goal? Just to introduce stuff and bring it forward to the board?
Right, so that they can be a sounding board for new technologies that are out there, so that they can search our surrounding communities for best practices to help them to leverage the Green Region Compact, and then to keep us, focused on track to make sure that we're sharing the information with our residents, because education is the key there. And so I view them as being able to help that, which is one of the 10 steps, was to provide education to our community and help our residents.
I might suggest the consideration of a once every other month approach. And certainly if on the front end there's activity that demands a schedule that's more aggressive than that, then that's fine. But just in balancing out your priorities a bit, every 60-day approach would be my recommendation.
How many people would you suggest?
Six.
6?
Yeah. It's 2 electric, 2 water, 2 gas and heating, and it allows groups of 3 to go off and champion projects. I was looking at the other committees around the state.
Can I ask, and I'm not saying I'm against this, but this is not a smart aleck question, but what's the alternative?
I guess we have to wait for trustees to come up with ideas.
I don't, what I guess I'm getting at, if Eric, for say, has some type of ecological thing that he wants to do, sustainability, whatever, he is sort of the expert on that, and then comes to us and we vote on it, right?
Yes.
So I guess, are we just putting another step in the process? Or, I trust Eric, or I, trust the chief or whoever to say this is what we should be doing. So is this just another step?
Absolutely not. And I didn't want to bring it up, but let me just say that I'm going to assume that after our last meeting, that your perception after we heard from Mike was that the phosphor reclamation versus the phosphor removal, that after you heard him speak, that you thought that that was a bad idea and that it was a dead idea. And if anybody feels any different, let me know.
I'd like to comment on
Hang on a second, Chris. I'll let you as soon as I go. However, what you didn't hear at the rostrum there was ideas that communities like Downers Grove did when they didn't have enough feedstock for their system, and they went out and they partnered with other communities, and they went to their restaurants and they got the biomass to put into their system in order to make it profitable. So it's very easy to say, whether you're tasked with it or not, to say why not to do things. But it's up to somebody that's independent, that's outside, to come up with the things that are outside the box. And the things that can be presented that we wouldn't think of, because we're doing, our staff is doing the daily, things. And that's what, the Sustainability Committee gives to the staff and to the village board, is they get to come up with those things and vet them and try them and test them out, and then bring it to the board after they've got the good ideas. Okay, Chris, go ahead.
With respect to Mr. Walsh, I mean, he was asked to speak to it on a short order basis, and we've done some follow-up, and on your next committee agenda, you will have now the consultant from Strand that we hired to do our wastewater study will come back following up on this issue to button it up. But we have, at a staff level, I mean, we have to give you the objective information, and I understand it's not a debate about priorities as much as it is, we got to feel free enough to give you the straight story. And we understand that in this case, you have an interest in this, and it's a good interest. It's not a bad interest.
Yeah.
But we got to be able to just be blunt with you about maybe this is a good idea that will support the sustainability side, or maybe it's not. Because there's 7 people that have to make those decisions, in our time in following up on things that aren't going to work, there's a cost to that. And so, I mean, we don't need to rehash the phosphorus discussion. It's going to be at the committee agenda next meeting. But, I just get concerned about the perception that we're not able to be sustainable because somebody's arguing about it. I mean, we're not. I mean, I see your point. I mean, you're saying, let's come up with a way an inexpensive way, which is volunteer time, right?
Yes.
To focus on a specific topic. It's not as though we won't have folks that will support that. I mean, as I indicated tonight, I would suggest Jacob in kind of a lead role in that. Others can come to the table when available and when it's needed. But I mean, I get concerned that we're chasing something here a little bit. I think the Sustainability Committee makes some sense with the ability to absorb it, but we're not going to be able to, redeploy a significant amount of resources to solely focus in this area. Just like when I advised you, when I asked about the ED task force approach, which is a recent endeavor, there is a different level of work there that will be invested in through a volunteer group. It takes some time and good investment of time to get it launched and get it moving, get people comfortable, then it pays dividends. Same with this. I just get concerned about getting stretched. And so that's part why my suggestion about an every other month approach. I don't disagree with you there. I mean, the Rain Barrel program is an easy one that I see.
Yes.
I see other suburbs that have water reclamation districts that provide governance to a rain barrel program, and Wheeling and Prospect Heights are popping rain barrels out to residents now, and I see them.
Yeah.
So I see those one-off things, but I get concerned that we're setting up ourselves to fail a bit here, because I don't know where the staff time is coming from, especially on a month-to-month basis, to follow up on what you're going to be doing.
Sure.
And I just get concerned about the priority list discussion, which I hope we're going to have tonight with respect to my work plan, and making sure that we're allocating resources to where, the highest and best need is within our means. So I will explain that, and you don't need me to explain it. I talked to you today about this. I think that we can get this going, but we have to do it with some patience, because it needs to be able to be absorbed by the operation. And I don't want to have, a set up to fail situation where we hit this with so much gas that it's not able to be sustained. And I'm becoming concerned with our priorities a little bit, getting overly spread out and not focused on necessarily the highest and best need.
All right. To answer Jim's question, the point of the Sustainability Committee is that they would come up and they would say at the start of their presentation, now I know, that, we have a small municipal water treatment plant, and it costs $5 million to do phosphorus recovery, and it's not advantageous. It wouldn't fit into our system. However, there are other communities that were in the same situation as Cary, and here's what they did in order to get that system to work for them. And now they're, making money, and they're, saving the environment. And they would present both sides of the story not just what we can't do. And that's why you have a sustainability committee, and they can sit and go off and have, their happy hat meetings. Sometimes they're a half hour, and sometimes they're, 2, 3, 4 hours. It just all depends on, the things that are coming down. But it's just so important. I mean, this is where we're going to save. And again, I mean, there's lots of evidence out there, but this is where we're going to save money. That's why these other communities have been doing it and have been showing it consistently. Some of them, again, since 2002. So we got a little ways to catch up. I appreciate the support, Chris. I just wanted to say that's what gives them that freedom to get out there. And thanks, Jacob.
Perhaps we could look at this as a standing committee that's there, and then if one of the trustees has a proposal or an idea that they want to vet or bring up,
Oh, yeah.
then it could be called, like on an on-call basis as opposed to tying up staff time. We would have a group of people on board that want to be part of that green team, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then somebody comes before us, like the solar panels that came up the last time, and if one of us wanted to pursue that a little bit farther, then we could say, okay, we'd like to call this committee as one of us, and then we would chair that committee as opposed to Jacob having to take on that responsibility. We could chair the committee, kind of lay out what our plans are, what our vision is for solar panels, and say, okay, guys, are you with me? Let's work forward. Let's get some good ideas, some good examples. Bring it back to me, then I can bring it to the board and present it to the board. Your idea with the phosphorus, this is something that I really, truly believe in. Let's get these 6 people together. We're going to investigate all these other communities that are doing it. Give me that information, then I can bring it back to the board and present it to the board as a proposal, as opposed to having a set committee every other month, every month, where they come down and maybe, I don't know, I just kind of see it in my head where, okay, we're sitting there and what are we going to talk about?
Well,
I would like, I appreciate those comments. My suggestion with respect to a staff member is, we're trying to set something up that's sustainable and lasts over time, right?
Yes.
I mean, and the task force, when called upon, is an interesting idea. I like the idea of a staff person chairing it solely because sometimes you don't all agree. And sometimes people have special interest issues that are legitimate, but I like having it be proctored in that way because we work for you all. And I just get concerned, not necessarily presently. I hear this in union negotiations a lot. It's not for us now, it's for the future. If you have somebody that's in that role, they need to speak on behalf of the whole group of 7 and not just one, because that's where we get into a politics and administration challenge here that wastes a lot of time and energy. So I respect what you suggested. That's why I suggested a staff person, and we can, on a every other month basis or 4 times a year, or whatever you decide to do, we can staff that piece.
okay.
So, Dave, I'm going to ask you a question.
Yeah.
This is a relatively new thing. We haven't had much opportunity to have conversation about it. And I think there's a lot of merit to it. I'm just going to throw this out for conversation and your opinion. To me, this kind of thing is best if it's led by people that are in the office, all the time. So folks like Eric, let's say at Public Works, or Jake, or some staff member, because I think they're involved constantly. They're not at the whims of election cycles. And to your point, the last meeting, it's more sustainable when you don't have to worry about people in and out all the time.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Because somebody's in an office. I also think that there's a lot of merit to this just by reading the information that you provided. But I think, and this is where I'm looking for your thoughts on it, I think municipalities and pieces of the municipality have to lead by example. I would imagine that the village, the park district, the fire district, the library are probably some of the most inefficient facilities we have in all of Cary. I would guess that they don't have, generally speaking, all their light bulbs with LEDs, where they're using a heck of a lot less energy. I'm guessing that they don't have certain types of things on timers to, move the HVAC down. I'm guessing a lot of us on this panel are probably much more energy conscious than the people we're paying taxes to.
Right.
So I don't know how you can go out to the community and say, we want you to get involved in all this great stuff when work starts at home. So in my opinion, I think, and this is where I'm looking, Dave, you know, because you're obviously way more into this than I am at this point. I think the committee, so to speak, should be somebody from the village, somebody from the fire district, somebody from the library district, somebody from the park district. It should be our municipal agencies that can get together, that are big, they spend a lot of money and use a lot of energy and have supposedly contacts in, you know, in the municipal field that bring ideas to us on a routine basis. I mean, Eric's brought a number of initiatives to us.
Yeah.
Prior to that, the same thing, our PW, you know, chief has brought stuff to us that's happening in the industry, things we're not aware of. So if there's any validity maybe to having the partners to this committee be people from varying sectors of our own village in different municipal agencies, I'd like to see, you know, some conversation around those lines together and see if the fire district is interested, see if the, you know, park district is interested. They might tell you, no, we're not interested at all. On the other hand, they might go, you know, that's a pretty cool idea, and we'll all join together. Something that, you know, I know when I talk to people in this town, one of the things I always get is, why do we have so many different sections? Why is there a park district? Why is there a
Yeah,
township?
yep.
Why is there this? Why, I mean, we have duplication, triplication, quadruplication. And maybe it's time, you've done a great job on the municipal partnering, because this is a prime example of that. Why don't we get together with people within our own town, not even going outside of Cary, but our own town, and saying, you know, what do you guys think about this sort of an initiative?
I believe, I mean, I understand there's a proposal on the table, and that's a different proposal. I believe that could be doable. I explained today, we have a mechanism in place with these other taxing bodies where we get together at least once a quarter. As a project, I think there would be an audience for that. My concern is, and I'm just being honest and direct, I mean, Trustee Chapman has some initiatives he wants to push now, right now, on specific things. And some of it comes from the Metro Mayor's items. And so I just want to put on the table, I think that's part why he wants to take this and run. And that other approach wouldn't necessarily handle it that way, or that with that speed. That may be more of a, you know, blended approach as opposed to the village coming in
But
and
with all
setting the
due
agenda.
respect to Dave's comments, I'm not sure we're ready to run the way he's suggesting it. I don't know who the people would be. I don't know what the goal of that group would be. I don't know all the, I mean, there's a lot of stuff to be done. I think the concept is phenomenal, but there's a lot of work to be done before you can even take step one. So I don't know that they're necessarily a real different path.
Okay.
Maybe Dave,
Sure.
in my opinion, but that's just my thought.
Yeah, as far as that idea about that, the Park District has a sustainability person. But my idea, and especially with the Energy Star program, and I probably should have sent you all the link to that, and I will after I go home today. You can look at it and you can sign up as a home resident. Very simple. The fire department could take this on and do this internally for themselves. The library board could do it themselves internally. The Park District, in addition to the efforts that their sustainability person does, can do that. But I absolutely see value at that next meeting of bringing all of those people and having an agenda item on there.
I'm glad to do that.
For village sustainability. Part of the Greenest Region Compact is exactly partnering with your other community groups and getting them to become involved, because it has to be an entire village in order to make this thing work. And Rick, I had not thought about that.
And bigger
really good.
taxing bodies, like one that comes to mind is D155, the high school.
Absolutely.
They've got a different resource base than we do, or any other body in this town. And I bet you there's some off-the-shelf things that, to your point, that could be, that don't need to be reinvented, that may already be going on in the high schools that might benefit.
And
So that's another approach.
Yes, has sustainability people, multiple for their facilities. So that is something to go. Now, as far as setting up a committee and getting things going, it's not going to be as challenging, I think, as you think, or as long as you think. There are people out there in Cary right now that are eager to get on the Sustainability Committee. The committee in Crystal Lake that meets at Duke's, I wish it was, in the evening rather than at noon, because they've got some great ideas. Been working with the watershed people on sustainability. So it absolutely could be a partnership with Conservation District, the libraries, and then turning that onto our businesses. So what my vision really is to get the committee together, to have a community meeting and invite the businesses, invite those people there and talk to them and say, this is where we want to go. These are some of the possibilities. And we'd like you to be involved, and these are the things that we're going to do. I mean, even just simple things like we talked about today about LED lights, in the downtown. I mean, people really like the lights down there. There's grants and money available for switching over to energy efficient lights and things. I don't want to sound gross or anything weird, but Franklin Park has little signs on their toilets in the bathrooms that says not potable water, because they take their water and their gray water and they recycle it into their municipal supply and use that. I mean, so there's things that are out there. There's plenty of opportunities, and especially for low-hanging fruit right away. Toilet to tap is being done now in California with the water shortage. And I'm not suggesting that for Cary yet, but it's something that...
Baby steps, Dave.
It's something that, yes, come 2030, when there's another couple of billion people on the planet, we'll all have to start looking at it.
That opens up a whole
A new restaurant downtown.
Toilet to tap.
Yeah.
So we got to start somewhere, and that's all. And I appreciate the support on it, and I'll work my hardest until I'm done. Rick, I wasn't talking about running this thing.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Kim, did you have any comments regarding this? You're the only one who hasn't really chimed in. Well, I think Ellen needs, I need.
No, I think it's a good program. I mean, I think for me, quarterly I would think would make sense with staff time. That would be a happy compromise, but that's about the only thing I got out of it.
I'm in agreement. I think quarterly is probably the way to start off with it. And when you look at some of these, I like the idea of if you have a group that's a sustainability group and they can look at some of those grant opportunities that are out there. As you said, it starts at home. So if we start off at home and you lead by example, that's the best way to get education out there also.
That's why I signed up. I said I want to try it.
I'll sign up, Dave. I'll tell you right now.
My company
okay?
signed up last week.
Would
so-
you like me to try for the first series of meetings? I think I could find at least 4 volunteers from the other taxing bodies.
Yeah,
Some of
really.
which may be employed in positions that have assignments that are within this
Sure.
realm that might be interested. I'd be glad to have that be the first meeting
Absolutely. Let's
and
do
that be
it.
the blast off point.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Dave.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Good ideas.
Administrator's report?
Thank you, Mayor. A couple items tonight. First, I wanted to bring back up the issue that had been raised at the tail end of the village board meeting on January 19th. I wanted to talk at a high level, not in a specific micro level, about the attorney services of the village. The village has had 2 billable full months for services, and we're heading to complete our 3rd since Ansel Link has begun their work for us, and they've done, on short notice basis, they've staffed village board meetings, zoning, planning, appeals board meetings, and special assignments, as well as the village prosecution work, which also was impacted when Attorney Coppedge moved on to a different assignment. I'm glad to have specific conversations with you, maybe more on a one-off basis about ways to improve, ideas you have, concerns you have. Glad to do that. That's not what this is designed to be tonight. But I wanted to brief you that I am in the background working on a request for proposals document, which I think we need at some point. And Jacob and I already have a model from the city of Park Ridge that has a scorecard basis. We can talk about what sort of group that you want to have involved in this. I mean, from a document standpoint, it takes some work, and we're already in the process of doing that. So, I mean, I'm not trying to kick a can down the road. I'm suggesting that we could probably use 30, 60 days to do that in the background while we continue to watch and learn from our current services. And we did say at the beginning of this process that, step A is fill the gap and evaluate an option. It's training wheels when you have an attorney that's left us after 13 years. You see things from a public standpoint, but staff also does, because about 80% of the work are billable hours that we ask them to do on projects and things in the background. And anytime you have a transition after 13 years, there's going to be some bumps. I've seen some bumps. I'm also seen a few things that have been done in a way that I think you would view as better. So I think we can, Jake and I and the team can summarize some of those for you. We'd like to hear from you individually about any concerns or thoughts. And I'll keep working on the document. We're not going to waste any time on that. So I'm glad to answer any questions on that at this point. Thank you. I also wanted to bring up department heads to go through any updates or reports, if we can do that right now before I complete my comments. Chief?
Just two things. Number one, the village administrator made me aware of, I always hit that thing, sorry. Made me aware of a grant process through the mayor, Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus, that is also a partner with Commonwealth Edison. And it's a matching grant. And we were working on a project within the village to improve access control within the village hall and the police department. So we were, in fact, I'm working on it now, but we're close to, we received 3 bid amounts, proposals to install such a system, and we're going to use that opportunity to submit that as a target hardening effort for our village hall and police departments. So it's a matching grant, and the grant amounts up to $10,000. What we're looking at as it relates to this project is an area of between $18,000 to $29,000 based on the proposals received. So I just want to let you know that we're working on that. And then the second thing is I attend as the emergency service director the 2015 McHenry County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan and Update Plan. So I just had to read it off here because I would have never remembered it. But part of that was, we were talking about surveys here, and part of this was that we had placed on our website the ability for the public to take a survey for this particular purpose. And this was put out countywide. Interesting results occurred for this. First off was that 74% of the responses for McHenry County came from Cary. So for the whole county, there was 201 responses, and 74% of them came from the village of Cary. So whatever we did well as it related to getting the word out for people to participate. That's good and bad, because now everything is related to Cary and not the county of McHenry. But another interesting issue was one of the comments that was made as a result of this was that a resident indicated that they couldn't hear the tornado warning sirens in Hunt Club Hills, which is on the far south side of the village. And interestingly enough, we had a discussion today at a ETSB meeting where they were going to be discontinuing some notification programs. So you may see that in the budget coming forward later on down the road to enhance our ability to communicate hazards to our citizenry. Any questions in regards to that?
Thank you.
I want to also indicate the chief as well as myself, but the chief more specifically of late, spending a good amount of staff time supporting the county's efforts to consolidate dispatch. It's a good story. We're in the process of, from a CCOM dispatch board standpoint, I'm on the board and the chief is one of the leads of the police committee. We're very close on 2 closed deals, 2 large suburbs in the county, and there's a third that's being discussed. It's been reported in the media, and that's why I say in more detail tonight. It's been, since I started the village, a goal of the village board to expand CCOM. It appears that because partly some of the new state legislation has required the number of dispatch centers in the county to go from 6 to 3, this certainly had some help towards nudging along consolidation, which is a long time in coming. As you see in some of the governor's recent documents, including the task force on consolidation and local government efficiencies, consolidations was one of the key points, as well as was municipal partnering. And so Carrie has been able to be, pretty involved in that on a short order basis, and I'm optimistic that we'll have a couple large suburbs part of our dispatch center, which is good news. Thanks, Chief.
Chief, one question, and maybe you want to answer it at the regular board meeting. A lot of the residents are concerned about those burglaries, and it's causing some of our residents to change their behavior. Some of it positive because people are actually locking their doors and things. But also what I've seen the reaction is some of the people are not trusting people. They're calling the police when somebody, walks by their bushes. They're freaking out about people that are, legally coming around soliciting, and they're, saying you got to keep your eyes out for these people. And and I don't want to know details, obviously, that's a police matter, but are we making progress on
Yes. Over the weekend, we did recover the vehicle in Streamwood. It was parked at a vacant home, and it had proceeds from a burglary from another suburb. So this is not something that is isolated to the village of Cary. We have something called critical reach or track flyers that go out, and these type of burglaries have been occurring in other northwest and western suburbs. So, there's a great likelihood that somewhere down the road, through some investigative efforts, especially pawn shops and things like that, that suspect will be identified.
Thanks, Chief.
But getting back to calling us, I encourage people to call us. That's the whole idea.
I know.
Behind this is that if there's something that people believe is suspicious, we're happy to, that's what we do. That's our job.
Yeah.
So, and if they do change their behavior, and, we call it target hardening, but if they lock their doors, if they keep lights on, things of that nature, tell their neighbors that they're gone so that someone calls us, call in a house watch, more than happy to accommodate those things.
Don't announce on Facebook you're going on vacation for a week and all those wonderful things. Okay, thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief. Jacob, you have anything? No, sir. Mary? Brian? Okay. Any discussion of, by the committee of the whole for any requested future items?
I'll advance one item which can be discussed here a little more deeply. Meyer Material, I did have a conversation with their attorney and representative of the firm within the last week. The bottom line is you have, and it appears there is, a quorum of the Zoning Board of Appeals on February 11th for a hearing at the Holiday Inn. That's also been communicated to citizens. We sent out hundreds of postcards also to mailing lists. We learned that there's a lot of interest in 2011, and so that's another mechanism for us to get the word out. At a high level, and I've shared with you in correspondence, there's clearly already on the table a proposal regarding impact fees. Clearly, they're asking for an extension of essentially 2 calendar years, but it appears to me, and we'll talk about it in more detail with them, they want to mine for 2 more years or so than they were supposed to, if not 3. So the impact fee schedule follows what we've had in the past. I think we're going to need to talk about the fact that that schedule was set up on the premise that it was done by now, and I'm not certain this village board is going to necessarily want to dedicate the impact fees in the same way as what maybe the board did in 2008. The current proposal, and I mean, there's lots of different issues to look at here, not just economic, but the current proposal involves essentially impact fees that the village has decided to dedicate to the vehicle and equipment fund, and then subsequently the land conservancy fund for the site. So it's good that there is some understanding of that. What we are finding as we review their petition and we dig into the details, it's much different land plan than it was in 2008 as what we're looking at now. And I've asked them to buffer up their presentation to the zoning board on the 11th about the end state of the site I mean, it's not just how many acres the lake is. The issue is, how is it left? We took a tour the other day in detail on the Three Oaks recreational facility, which, by the way, the city of Crystal Lake invested $15 million of home rule sales tax into to build that site out. They have, a number of hundreds, I believe, of part-time help with one full-time staff person that programs that. They have a number of public-private partnerships that are very, very interesting and creative that are building out that space. I just want you to understand, and as we go through this with our residents, we need to reset the message a bit. I think the reality of what happened is that since '08, that Crystal Lakes facility was built, and it looks like it does today, while ours is being mined. And I hear from some of the questions I get from residents now on the current Meyer deal, the thought that is, when this is done, how it's going to look. Well, it's not. There isn't a plan for that. What I see from and you can comment or not tonight, what I see from a leverage standpoint of the village and something we need to be reflective of is how that is left in terms of the depths of the lake itself, the thought of a future vision of any kind of, I don't want to say a beach, but some kind of use of the water, that includes a pier. There are state standards tied to what the shaping of the edge of the lake has to be in terms of from a depth standpoint to even be able to do that. There's significant grading, and many of you went on tours. There's grading that can be done now that would help the village down the road. I'm assuming that we're going to need other agencies of the village to participate in programming. We're a non-home rule community. We're going to probably need to look at the Park District to partner in some way, possibly the Conservation District, possibly others. But that has to be built right for anybody to be able to use it. And we're not there yet at all. And so I think that we need to focus some of our staff time and our own time in looking at that in detail, reflecting on that at the zoning board, making sure the right questions get asked early on. Because, that's beyond hundreds of thousands of dollars of work that is also of economic value to the community. This is not a situation in the current environment in our state where OSLAD grants, exist anymore for these kind of projects. It's difficult to create capital for recreational projects in this environment. So I think there's a huge unknown there that we're learning about as to what the end state is. And I just bring that to your attention as you keep hearing it from me. We're digging into that. We're going to look at some resources for that because there might be, certainly an impact fee tied to an extension is your decision, but separately, we just got to make sure that the community at the back end has something it can use in some reasonable way. So we'll be continuing to work on that front. Happy to answer any questions.
So instead of like a big, like a penalty or something, instead work with them to say, can you, finish off? I have seen the end plans, but can you leave it, in a more finished state so that it would be less work for us since they've got bulldozers and things and it's going to cost millions?
Yeah, and that's part of it. And the idea is that if they're going to have an extension, if you decide that, there's dead time, there's winter time where they can't be mining, but they do have capital equipment and labor.
Yeah.
That might be complementary to an enhanced leftover state here that you might want to at least consider. And it certainly is going to be up to you, but if it's going to be used for something beyond just a very raw passive programming, you're going to need more shaping than they're telling us they're going to leave it in. So I just wanted to draw that to your attention.
Okay.
That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Adjourned.